I mean, can we just, one of the really intriguing things about watching that episode is obviously, it's just the two of you in the studio. Obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but then suddenly you have that amazing visual effects moment with the face falling off from the bell and stuff like that.
No, there's a lot of moments like that, but what we wanted to do was make it. We filmed it all real time, so it all just happened, and we got our great director Matt. Whitecroft there, who we got in because we wanted to do it in half an hour and film it really good
time.
And he was used to, filming bands and he'd never done anything in the studio like that before. So all hail to him for taking on that thing. But
because it's miraculous what Matt and the team have done, because that literally is what we filmed. They had nothing to play with.
So your poor face.
We just went and did it. It's actually real time, all that. And but all the other things, face falling off, of course, was done post-production.
Oh, you're spoiling it now. But bearing in mind, what I imagine was a fairly tight budget, because I know that BBC are not known for throwing huge amounts. I mean, that's pretty remarkable, in terms of getting an effect like that.
That was £1 million. That
was it?
Yeah. They make exceptions,
And very I know that you revisited this format,
Do you know there was that bit of animation in there? Did you see the animation?
Whatever I answer, it's going to be wrong, isn't
it? No,
it?
I'm willing to say
There was a bit
yes
of animation where David Williams had a fight with Warwick Davis.
Warwick Davis, yeah.
I filmed that on my kitchen table with my iPhone, and I sellotaped it onto a broomstick and did the animation myself.
You saw Warwick Davies and his family at Legoland, didn't you?
I did, yes.
No, it's just, yeah. So
I looked out the window and I said to my wife, I said, come and look at Warwick Davis and his family on tiny little cart things just going in a line, looking really miserable.
Yeah. Maybe they thought the carts would be faster. It's often the case, isn't it? They're like a low. It's like outside the supermarket. As a kid, you think, fucking choo-choo train's going to take me to fucking Wild West. But
quite often they don't.
And as Shane said at the start, it's now, since you kind of joined the BBC, it's been 25 years, and then it's 30 years since this show first kind of went out on TV, isn't it?
On Channel 4?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah. And I just wonder whether, bear in mind, you've done so many other things. You've done, like sort of Catterick and Randall Hopkirk and all the kind of like shooting stars. But coming back to that format, which is obviously tried and tested, but also refreshing it as well.
What, that?
Oh, the decision about going back and making that.
Well, it's pretty much what we've always done. If you look at Shooting Stars and Smell of Roses Mortimer and all, Bang Bang, it's all the same.
just wrap it up a bit different, like House of Fools. Was it called House of Fools, that show?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was such fun.
Yeah.
That was a sitcom.
But it was the same.
No, what we did with this is kind of go back to when we did Vic Reeves' Big Night Out, and just do it in half an hour. Just do it quick, make it exciting, and we rehearsed it and then went and did it.
And when you're doing it with a live audience, obviously you get that instant response, but does that make it more difficult from a TV point of view in case you want to kind of have to go back and do things again, or are you pretty much just going straight through as if it's the...
No, well, it's like that's down to our director, Matt, to allow us that freedom to do it. Like in that one, my hands got slightly stuck in the pocket. And like Matt's just got that head on of, no, I'm filming what happens, not what's meant to happen. And so
if it happens, and you get it on camera, and we keep it there.
And you've got Vaughan here with us today.
Yeah. There he is.
And,
there, Vaughan.
Yay! And Vaughan's like a kind of miracle. Do you know, Vaughan? I phoned in a late-night radio show and said that my son was the fastest sprinter in the world. Yeah, and that he could do the 100 metres in 19 seconds. We tried to sell that one, and then Vaughan, as another phoned up a couple of days later and said, I know that kid. and he's shit. He's not fast at all. And the way Vaughan did it, you just instantly, so, you know, like Vaughan's been like, it's a miracle over down the phone line, you know, like, it was great in the show. We've been so lucky all the time, haven't we, Jim? With Charlie Chuck and Matt Lucas and Angelos.
Yeah. And you get, occasionally you come across people, you know, we don't want to involve, you know, professionals.
There's a lot of truth in what Jim said. You don't want to involve people who have stayed or have seen it all before. Who said, oh, I know how to do these shows, it's easy. So from wardrobe through right the way through to director, we try and use people who've still got a little bit of excitement about the whole thing. I met Jim when he was in a funk band, yeah? And that were an exciting time in your life, wasn't it?
I was in a topless funk band. And Bob was in a band called they're called the Banbury the Bakewell Tarts.
No, they weren't.
It was him and
No, they weren't.
and three old ladies. And they just sang, you know, songs that old ladies like to hear. No, I'm lying. When I first met Bob, he was selling trinkets, you know, like baubles, you know, like coloured buttons, ribbons, and shells to gentlemen of note. So of course I said, "What are you selling today, young boy?"
Trinkets and baubles.
Ribbon. I'm interested in that ribbon. I could tie that around my ankle.
People generally ask us how we met and that. And we never said the true story, but I went to Whitby to get that new haircut that was on at the time. It's called the Whiffle.
Yeah.
I went to a Whiffle. And
The Wimbrel.
That was the Whiffle. The Wimbrel was for the ladies. It was much.
The Wimbrel had a centre part in it when I was outside. But, ooh.
Mine was just a Whiffle. And the only person given that cut out in the Northeast was a young James Moyer.
Yeah.
The Whiffler, if you would know.
Known as the Whiffler.
And that's how we actually got.
With my three-pronged scissors.
Imagine that.
So no, you didn't ask us how we met, but we.
I wanted to know.
No, but we decided tonight for the first time to say how we met at
How exclusive.
at Whiffles in Whitby.
And just just going back to sort of Vaughan and some of his kind of predecessors. You talk about like Uncle Peter and George Dawes and all those sort of guys. Would they be creations that you would have on a piece of paper before you would meet them, or were you writing for the guys themselves?
No, that we did no.
No, they turned up.
Vaughan brings to what you know, like that's like. I don't know what Vaughan would probably tell you. I don't know whether it made you like nervous about it all, but we just said, "No, Vaughan, do your thing." And
do what you.
I was, if you want me to speak, I'll speak. I haven't got a piece of paper, Bob, I'll tell the truth. No, Bob.
We'll get a microphone down to you so everybody can hear. You've got a mighty voice, but there's a lot of people in here.
Get him to sit on the stage there.
I was terrified because I met Jim and Bob, and they were absolutely brilliant, and they said, right, we're going to rehearse now, and I was literally lost, basically. And I just went on and did like a Teesside character, I suppose. And they said, yeah, brilliant, right, next. Look at the audience. Oh, sorry. And see, that's how good they are. And they said just do what you do, and Matt and everyone just picked up on it and said, yes, that's great, that's what they want, really, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And now one from my last album. Thank you. If there's any other
no, you
questions.
can keep that now forever. That's yours to keep.
Put that in a flower pot.
So yeah, you know, like if you got a good spirit about things, you know, you get people involved like Matt and like Vaughan and Dave who did our. They've all got that same spirit of fuckaboutery.
And
we've got our director Dave Walker
I just said
there,
Dave, yeah.
who filmed all the stuff that we did. We did a load of stuff in for Foster's, and it was very natural stuff, cheap.
And that was all down to Dave.
Yeah.
And we had Dave doing that, and we wanted that spirit as well. We want things cheap
Yep.
and natural.
I've just bought an orange carpet. Fucker.
I've got a really nice orange carpet. Actually, I've got a really nice red carpet.
I've just bought a black cabinet. Actually, I've got a really nice blue cabinet. It's a what they call a runner up the stairs. So, gonna have to live with that. But I did it.
That's three of my questions gone now. I was going to, obviously, you know, music obviously it's been a very important part of both of your lives, and you incorporate that within the show. Do you write the songs yourselves?
Yeah.
They're catchy songs.
Of course we do. Who are you going to get to write them songs?
I thought they were really good.
We've sent messages to Elton John and said, look, this is the kind of standard we want. And he said, do you know what, lads? I think I'll leave it.
And I know that, you know, when you're not performing, you're an artist as well, and art is a very important part of your life. But that has kind of crossed over into your work. I mean, you've almost become like this kind of, I don't know, they are like works of art in their own right.
For sure.
It always was. That's where it started off. I was at art school, and I really loved Gilbert and George, and I thought I want to do something like Gilbert and George, and it ended up being on television.
Do you remember Gilbert and George who used to like a fight, didn't they?
Yeah.
When we used to go out drinking.
Yeah.
The one with the specs, a fucking scrapper, isn't he? No, you wouldn't think. You know, it's all just like. But get the wrong side of him. What the fuck are you doing? I had a vasectomy, the snip, because I
Did you?
I didn't want to have any kids. But when I got home, they were still there. That's just a joke.
That's a good joke, that. That's a very good joke. Who wrote that one down for you?
Not me.
One thing I would love to know is on Shooting Stars, obviously, you know, on the whole, most people who go onto your shows know what they're letting themselves in for.
Who did? Who did?
Well, most of the guys who come on the show, they know what they're letting themselves in for. They know what the kind of the joke is. But there was just that clip there in the promo reel of Larry Hagman, which is one of my all-time kind of favourite moments. Because did he genuinely not get the joke?
I mean, I don't think so. Well, I don't think he didn't get the joke. He just came. It was the perfect performance. Well, we had a few. I remember Chris Rea did it as well. They just turned up, and it was an authentic quiz and dealt with it as no, it's an authentic quiz. That's shit. Yeah. Didn't they really? And treated that way.
The fartridge and stuff like that. He just looked really bewildered, didn't? I mean.
Yeah. No, he did. It was great, but he was
We
very
had a
nice.
Gibb on, a Gibb brother.
Oh, that was terrible.
Always known for their sense of humour.
Robin Gibb. He said, I'll go on the show if you play my song. Because he wanted to promote his song. So we played his record, listened to it, and then carried on with the show.
Oh, it was a
I don't think he knew what was happening. I don't really knew what sort of programme it was. But it's, you know, television programmes, fun.
I'm going to see if anybody wants to ask a question.
Let's have a question.
But just one last question before I do. Well, it's just in terms of when you're working together, when you're writing the script, how does that work? Are you very disciplined? Do you sit down,
Fabulously disciplined. I say to Bob, sit down there and be quiet and write down whatever I say is funny. And he does.
And is that what you do? All right, we're definitely going to give some questions to the audience, I think.
He still haunts us a bit.
Electric Russell was the guitarist in the Human League. And he was a brilliant guitarist. He he played like Richie Blackmore. And I did a record with the Human League, and he was on that. That's what happened. The last time I heard of him, that was that.
I think he occasionally contacts us and asks.
Oh, no, we saw him when we were on tour.
Did we?
Yeah, he turned up with a skinhead.
I remember I always remember there's a scene in it where we're getting onto a coach and Paul Whitehouse is the bus driver And that was the first time we were on screen. Paul turned around and said he murdered him brutally, mind. And at that moment, I really completely wet myself. So you'll see that entire scene is on the reverse of me. Because, yeah.
Here's another moment. Another member of the Human League, Phil Oakey, was playing a part in the field. You'll remember this. And he had a meat stall. And it started pissing down with rain, and we all went into the bus for lunch. And I said, "Where's Phil?" And the director said, "I don't know, where is it?" "Oh, he's still out there in the field." No one had told him to come in for lunch, and he was still stood out there behind his meat stall in the pouring rain.
Lovely fellow, wasn't he?
Oh.
Much
Yeah.
better looking. Very pretty man.
And now, we've been lucky. No one's ever said, "No, you can't do that," because otherwise we'd just go and do it somewhere else, privately.
No, I think because when the show went on the telly, all that 30 years ago, it was just it was like our stage show, and so that meant nobody interfered with it really, and that's kind of stuck with us, hasn't it, Jim? No one seems to supervise it.
No, we're very lucky. No one bothers with us.
Back in the early days, did you make your own props at that point?
Yeah,
We still do.
Yeah, we still do.
Do you still make your own
There's a few.
props?
Yeah.
You see Miss Graham Lister's owl? That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Graham Lister's owl. Jim brought that along on the day.
I just make the props at home,
It's all right though, yeah.
in the kitchen or in my studio. Yeah, I make them.
It's a weird thing in TV. Like one of the hardest things, if like you're really caring about your comedy, is like, could we have a bucket or a tea towel or a wooden spoon? And in the normal course of TV ways, you'll just get a brand new bucket and a brand new spoon or whatever, and they're of no use to you. So the best thing is to bring your own bucket that is worn in and used and feels authentic. You know, so
I
there's
think every prop on there I made.
what did we have on
Virtually
there?
everything. The
I don't
Turin
think you made that
shroud.
circular
I've had
thing.
so many Turin shrouds. I can't count them. And they're all Turin shrouds with the face of Christ on them. No, that was quite an experience. When that happened, but that was when we were on tour. The first tour we did was a kind of university. It was like because when we started, we were rock and roll comedy. We were always over the NMA, the front of the NMA, weren't we?
That's true. Yeah, that's what.
And so we went and did a kind of indie tour. So we were at universities, and I did look down. I was at kind of this area on a stage this side, and I looked down, and there was a girl going like that. I'm not going to really describe what she was doing, but
But thank you for the question, Ken.
thank you, Kate. Yeah,
That lovely
and
memory.
there's not been anything since, as far as I know.
Well, I think we've been together so long because we have such a you know, the best part of our lives is every day when we're just writing. You know, we could be 15 again. You know, we're just having a laugh every day, and I think that's what keeps us together because it's a very precious thing. But there's nothing gets on me nerves about Jim whatsoever. People, you know, we get asked this more than any other question. Have you ever fallen out? What gets on each other's nerves? But we've never fallen out. And is that about me gets on your nerves?
I can't think of anything. I'm trying to think of something, but not really.
You used to eat some very specialist foods. You probably still do, but there was a period where everything you had in your little bird box fucking stank. Honestly, I don't mean to be unkind, but there was
He's talking about the kimchi.
some strange bits and pieces. But I mean, it didn't get on my nerves, you know. I think people, I don't know why, like you can have a mate for 30 years. It's easy.
I mean, I don't think there's anything that ever got on my nerves about Bob. He always wore shoes that were the wrong size, and I was always trying to persuade him to get shoes of the right size.
Yeah. These are an 8.
But he's a
about
size
right.
15.
Look about right, look about right.
Eggs are going up, you know.
Yeah.
That's going to surprise a few chickens, isn't it?
Jesus.
That's panto joke.
When I first saw Bob, he was gorgeous.
fucking right.
Well, you were hunky then. You were. We were both really quite hunky.
We had our moments, didn't we? Then.
Yeah.
I went to see Jim when it was Vic Reeves' big night, which was and like it's the funniest bloke I've ever seen in my life, and it continues to be that person still. So.
The first night was. I was doing the big night out downstairs in the Goldsmiths Tavern, and then one night, because downstairs was Lily Savage, and I had to move upstairs that night, and so I don't know. It was a smaller audience, and but I think I put on the best thing ever. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever done.
Upstairs.
And it was Tappy Lappy. And it was before anyone had, those the cardboard faces of people that you see they're ripped us off. Come on. I had those cardboard faces. I had two faces of Brian Ferry. Exactly the same, but it was just the right look. And me and my mate, Johnny Irvin, had that, and planks on our feet. And the sound of kettles being smashed. Yeah. And we did a tap dance to it. And that was the first thing you saw. And that was the first thing that Bob saw, and he thought, I want to be mates with the bloke who created that. And then I sat down afterwards and said, did you enjoy that? And he said, yes, very much, thank you. And I said, well, would you be prepared to do something equally as inventive next week?
Yeah, that's how it happened.
Is that really how it started? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. No, that's the truth.
Well, forgive.
No, but honestly, I don't know. It might be difficult for people if they're younger than us to understand. Like, in that time, it was like I remember it was like Cole, not Dole, and political comedians and stuff like that. To walk into a room and see a bloke with this Brian Ferry face, with planks tied to his feet, tap dancing to tap, and all sorts of things like that was quite extraordinary.
On paper, that shouldn't be funny though, but it's like in the second episode, you're going to see like when
Would you really read that on paper?
Well, but I'm just saying, there is something very unique about your comedy, which I can't quite. It is so unique, and the fact that. If you ask anybody else, I don't know, to eat corned beef in the way that you do in the second episode, whatever it might be. But anyway, I'm not going to try and explain that because it's like asking.
I wouldn't bother trying to explain anything, really. Just have a look at it.
Well, with the Stotts to do us in, but I'll pull my hand up and said that when there's two that Jim do that I can. What we used to do is got a character called Kinky John. We saw a little bit of him, and when we were doing something called The Club, we didn't write Kinky John or anything. I would just stand, you remember you were on the stage, and just ask Kinky John stuff. And just, I find that character says, did you like him, Jim? Do you like doing it?
I love doing Kinky John funk. And what I used to do was put toilet paper in there, so you get more of that, so you can talk more like that. And then Daniel Day-Lewis nicked it from...
It's true. No, it's true.
It's true. And Daniel Day-Lewis told me, he said, yes, I nicked it and used it in the Gangs of New York.
And the other one... He used to...
Very, very poor.
And there was all that thumb work and that. But the other one is we did a show called Catrick, and... this is true. It's like, and then we had this Jim's character Chris, and Jim went into wardrobe and makeup, and we were outside, and then he emerged, and we looked at our shoulders. What the fuck has he done? And you walked out, looking like Peter Sutcliffe, the murderer. I was like, what? But I couldn't see it any other way now, and that's like that's the beauty of Jim. That is just an idea. There's this isn't necessarily true. But you look like Peter Sutcliffe, and you probably went, oh, no. But well, you shouldn't look like Peter Sutcliffe.
No,
I don't. Yeah, but you do.
I don't look like him.
And but it's like, yeah. I love those
let me tell you this. My favourite character that Bob's ever done when we did Tom Fun, and he did Derek. Derek.
Is it Jared?
Is it Jared?
So, no,
I was always jealous. Tom Thumb was a good character, but I was jealous of not being playing the Derek.
yeah. I mean, we're very fond of. Stupid things. So we're very fond of the characters, but like, we can remember the little moments when, say, Jim's got up in Jim's kitchen, we're writing, and he's done the stance. You know, like we see the birth of it because it's not. All characters aren't born from the words that much. It's not like there's a funny script. What should we do? We start with an unusual character. Usually with Jim, an unusual stance or character or look, and then we get the words come later, kind of thing.
The glove. Well, yeah, we wrote that. I don't know, 8 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah.
And there's lots. It went here and there, hither and thither. It was at one point going to be commissioned and paid for by Damien Hirst. It was going to be done by Film 4, this and that. Anyway, it's now actually going to happen. Where's Kevin? Is Kevin here? Where's Kevin? There. He's in charge of it. Ask him the questions.
We got a bloke in it, and he's terrific, isn't he? Because he lost his legs, but they managed to save his feet. So they said we can put him in the waist. We can put the feet in the waist.
Look, it's a fella. He was in a war. And he got his legs blown off. The legs were blown off, but the feet were all right. So, ask yourself this question: your feet are all right. We can glue them on here, and you can have feet.
Or we can put them in the waste paper basket.
Get rid. This fella got his feet put on. There.
And is he called the Falcon or something?
No, he's the Finch.
He's the Finch, yeah.
And he stands on the bar in this pub and tells stories, war stories and so forth.
That's about as good as the movie gets.
Good story, though.
It's a good, solid story.
It's a very good, solid story. It's
like
kind of like it's the Holy Grail, but the Holy Grail in these days, my darlings, is
Michael
Jackson's training glove. It's you know it's the mystery of the celebrity. What do you call it?
Paraphernalia. Memorabilia.
Celebrity paraphernalia.
And so, like, it ends out with like a proper shootout, you know. RPG. Proper shootout with Matt Berry, who's lost his legs.
Oh, don't give anything away.
You sure?
Mm. And Dusty Bin's in it.
Is Dusty Bin 3-2-1?
Yeah, 3-2-1. Ted Rogers.
What's your favourite BFI film?
Favourite BFI film? Just too many. Just too many.
Why do you ask us that?
Well, I was steered away. So what's your favourite BFI film?
Hell Drivers.
Stanley Baker. Good film.
Love it.
Good film. You prefer to go play this game?
Oh,
No,
Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, my favourite film of all time, but Hell Drivers is second.
Cool.
No, it's not. It's anyway, carry on.
I like Teen Mom on the telly.
Yeah, I can blame you.
Honestly, all life's there, man.